going to talk about Robert Williams. Williams was the Celtics' late first-round pick, and when you look at Williams' athleticism, you think he can be a rim roller, someone who can catch alley-oops, grab offensive rebounds, be an energy guy, and be someone who I think the Celtics do kind of need, if anything, just for insurance, because Al Horford is getting up there in age, and they're going to need someone to give him a break minutes-wise as he gets older. But also they have Aaron Baines now for 2 more seasons as the guy to help out Horford on the front line in terms of rebounding, and maybe Williams could do either one of those things. If anything, he could just be a backup for Horford for a while, and then you figure it out later. Whatever it may be, but I do think he can have a real role for the Celtics. The thing with Robert Williams, though, is there is a bit of uncertainty with this guy, which is why I believe he fell so far. Number one is his overall focus. I mean, since getting drafted, he's already been late to practices, or he's missed a flight or whatever, and that's not good. He's going to have to fix up on those things. Just be punctual, be a professional, and all that. There's not really a how-to on how to do that one. It's just simply do it. But if we can talk about his on-the-floor stuff, the thing that strikes out at me first is the fact that he's only 6'9". It's not exactly beautiful, given the type of player that he is. You wish that he had at least another inch or 2 on him. That doesn't mean that he can't make it work as this guy who really plays like a center, but it's not exactly ideal. Whether that means he might have to get a little stronger, maybe, but he's such a good athlete that maybe that's his way to make up for his lack of height. I don't know. It's a fear, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. What could end up being the worst thing in the world, though, is just his attention to detail, because the questions with Robert Williams is, can he really figure out the little things that could allow him to go from an okay player to a legitimately good one, right? I think it starts with him setting screens. He doesn't always just set a good one, to be blunt about it. Perhaps he could learn from Al Horford, even though almost all of Horford's screens are illegal, but they never call it, so Horford is effectively one of the best screeners in the NBA. Aaron Baines is also a very good one, so that could help him out. Kyrie Irving, if he ever ends up playing that many minutes with Kyrie, then, I mean, hell, Kyrie at least knows how to use a screen. That could help him out. And if it's anyone who can probably teach some basic basketball stuff, I assume that it would be Brad Stevens. So that is another thing we should point out, is this is one of those franchises that would be really good for a guy like Robert Williams, because if he ended up on a team that was kind of a mess and was in a whole bunch of flux and they didn't really know what they were doing, then you think he could fall into that. But given that this is the Celtics, a team that is, got a decent chance to make the finals this season, you would hope that that could whip him up into shape a little faster. So setting screens, that's one thing. Another thing is also overall defense, pretty much. He's got the physical profile of a real defender, and he did average 2.5 blocks in college, but I think that's mainly because he can just jump really high. If you look at the way he actually plays defense, possession to possession, where he doesn't get a highlight play, then sometimes he could be out of position. Sometimes he could try to do too much in terms of like going to contest a shot and allowing someone to grab an offensive rebound, or going for a steal when he shouldn't, blowing an assignment, blowing a switch, that type of thing. Once again, it's good for him that he found Brad Stevens, who knows how to coach those things up, and we saw that Kyrie Irving, who had a lot of problems on defense in Cleveland, sure, he's still not like an above average defender, but I think he was able to get to at least not killing you defensively with the Celtics, and I'm sure you could attribute some of that to this coaching staff and all that, some of it to Kyrie just maybe being a bit more locked in, but that's the type of thing that Robert Williams is going to have happen for him. I think right now he kind of reminds me of like Nerlens Noel, his previous season with the Mavs, where he just tried to do way too much on defense to, justify why he turned down like $17 million a year from the Mavericks. just do your thing. Do what the coaches tell you, and you can be a quality defensive player. That's what we would say for Robert Williams. Now, while I think defensively he hasn't been the best, I also think he has the potential to be a switchy defender because this is where that 6'9" frame helps him out. He is a bit athletic, as I've mentioned before. More than a bit, he's very athletic. Yeah, I mean, if he could be able to do that and defend perimeter players effectively, then we're looking at another guy that the Celtics have who can do that. Between, Hayward and Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Marcus Morris, Marcus Smart. And then if you add Robert Williams into that mix, then you really got something. I mean, you already do have something, but this could just be like icing on the cake. Now, do I think we're going to see him doing that in his first season? Probably not. There's a decent chance he only plays 7 minutes a game this season and only plays like 40 games, But the potential is certainly there nonetheless. If we can get to his offense, I think a lot of it is going to be stuff around the rim. And again, if he can figure out the screening, if he can be an effective offensive rebounder, if he can finish around the basket effectively, then that's going to allow him to be a quality player on that side of the floor. His shooting is something that he has at least attempted, I guess. There's enough reports out there about his jump shot to show that he's at least attempted a few. His form probably needs to be completely redone because it looks different every time he shoots it pretty much. The ball goes up on one side of his body, it ends up on the other one, and unlike Kevin Durant, that's not going to work. He also shoots 47% from the free throw line, so that's not a good sign whatsoever. He is a project, but this is why he fell to where he fell, and this is why I don't fault the Celtics for taking him, because if he can figure this stuff out, and it's going to take some help from the Celtics, of course, but if Robert Williams can be this disciplined, athletic player who can switch on to perimeter players on defense and protect the rim, and then on offense he can just be a piece of a team, setting screens, rolling to the rim, offensive boards and all that, then that's a really quality player. And one thing that's interesting is he has been thought of as a pretty decent passer. He averaged 1.5 assists, which I don't think tells the whole story in college. Scouts will tell you he is able to see cutters, and he actually puts a decent amount of spin on the ball where defenders might not be able to just tip it away all the time. That's intriguing. His ball handling is maybe like Serge Ibaka levels right now, which, given that he's about to enter the NBA, that's interesting. So we could see that if you fast forward 4 years or so, perhaps he's a guy who can do some of what Al Horford does in Brad Stevens' system, where he will just have the ball on the top of the key, and he can space out the floor. Now, of course, to be able to space the floor in that situation, you either have to be able to shoot or you have to be able to finish at the rim off your own dribble, so he's going to have to improve there too, which is why I say give this some time. But if he can do that, then once again, there's just another thing that he can do for the Celtics. I mean, if Robert Williams had more of these skills really honed in, then he would be thought of as the perfect modern day big guy. But unfortunately, a lot of these things are just maybes right now. You look at Jaren Jackson Jr., right? Everyone's pretty much guaranteeing that he's going to be able to switch and he's going to be able to shoot threes. Neither one of those things could end up really being a thing for Robert Williams. I mean, for all we know, he may just end up being a specialist, where all he does is play about 17 minutes a game, plays defense, and just hopefully doesn't kill you on offense. Could be the other way around. Maybe he's an effective offensive player, never figures it out on defense. If he can figure it out on both, then he could be really something. So that's what it is. It's a matter of giving him time, hoping that some of these things can figure themselves out. And once again, he found a really good spot with the Celtics and Brad Stevens and all this. So that's cool. He also could end up getting traded for insert superstar here down the road. For my sake, hopefully Anthony Davis. So yeah, who really knows? He seems like something. So I have to see what happens.